With this ride 1 of the medieval Morvan tour, we're going to go south of Avalon, dive in straight into the Morvan, the green lungs of the Bourgogne. We have a ride of 220 kilometers, 135 miles on what looks like amazing biker routes. But of course we also have some nice stops for drinks, food, maybe some sightseeing, especially in the medieval towns that we will bring you to. So let's go crazy! Already, and it's almost down to Rocky and flat following town Lorentz. And we took this little detour via La Justice to have that view.
And it's a good mix of bigger and smaller roads. Yes, we are 1 hour and 10 minutes on the way. Time for coffee.
Here in Lorentz you can find this bar, Le Grand Café, and there is some parking around it, so we are sure that you will find a parking for your bike for a quick coffee. Bear in mind, it is closed on Mondays.
Okay.
But more winding routes through the Morvan area awaited, so let's go.
Wow, wow, wow! This D977 bis is one of the most amazing roads in the Morvan. I think.
I agree. And we like a good mixture of roads, but this one is really good for riding. Nice curves, or sweeping bends as they would say. Saulieu. And Johan, we're gonna look for polar bears in Saulieu.
As if there are polar bears here. Why would there be polar bears in Saulieu, Maria?
I'll show you. Most probably we'll see a bull first. And no, we are not going to a zoo.
Okay. Now the French do call this Little Canada, this area, the Morvan.
Petit Canada, see? Oui.
Petit Canada. I've never been in Canada, but if Canada is like this, I want to go.
If that is petit, how does Grand Canada look like?
And the question is, are there polar bears in Canada? A polar bear. Just past the polar bear.
First I'm looking for a park. In the 1970s, the road between Paris and Lyon was called the Route Nationale 6. It became an important road, especially for holidaymakers, and Saulieu benefited from the streams of tourists going south. Hotels and restaurants were opened and cultural heritage sites were renovated. Those were the heydays of tourism in this area. After the motorway was opened, the importance of the road decreased, and with it the number of tourists visiting Saulieu. But Saulieu has, as one of the few places on this former national route, managed to retain much of its former glory. And there are still some good restaurants. This Relais Bernard Loiseau, for instance, has had 3 Michelin stars since 1991. In 2003, however, the chef owner, Bernard Loiseau, feared the loss of 1 star and committed suicide just before the new Michelin guide came out. This has led to a fierce discussion in France on the power of Michelin. His suicide is even more bitter if we know that the Michelin star was not lost. Now I think the restaurant has 2 Michelin stars and its own boutique. Saulieu is also the birthplace of François Pompon, the French sculptor who had a preference for animals and lived from 1855 to 1933. Throughout Saulieu you will find some of his sculptures or replicas, such as this Ours Blanc, the polar bear. The story of Pompon is also quite a sad one. When his Ours Blanc, polar bear, was exhibited in 1922 in Paris, it stood out because its modernism contrasted sharply with the aesthetics of the 19th century realism. It seemed that the then 67-year-old Pompon would finally become famous. But due to a combination of circumstances, amongst which the outbreak of the First World War, he was unable to do any creative work for a long time and had to work in a number of poorly paid jobs. After the First World War, Pompon was very offended that he wasn't allowed to make the memorial in Saulieu, and eventually he died in poverty. After his death, Saulieu did dedicate a museum to him, but it only holds a small part of his oeuvre. Nowadays, Saulieu does seem to honor Pomponne more by the polar bear route. Bronze polar bears lead you along the main sides of Saulieu. For our lunch, we are trying the slightly less prestigious Café Parisien. We have read that this cafe with Art Nouveau decor is the perfect place to have lunch when visiting Saulieu. So they have a table, so we're gonna try to have a good lunch. Well, enough walking. Let's hit the road again. Well, our next stop is here in this medieval town that's called Semur-en-Auxois. It's built on a pink granite pavement. So that's why we got a bit of a view. Oh, Johan, does that look medieval or what? Very nice. This is Semur-en-Auxois. The ride back to Avenant is still about 50 kilometers, 31 miles, and of course your GPX file will bring you right back. But we will end this video here in beautiful Semur-en-Auxois. And we really hope that you have enjoyed this ride in the Morvan as well. Oh, and if you are posting on social media when you are doing your crazy rides with me, please remember to tag us and use the hashtag CrazyRides, as we love to see you having as much fun with it as we do. If you like this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel with the notification so you won't miss our future videos on crazy rides. And if you want to keep going crazy now, we have a ride 2 in the medieval Morvan tour and it's in the middle of your screen.